Hey everybody, it's Rami Marks, your tangled yogi out here in Northern California, and today we are doing the Illuminated Heart class. We did this class at Riley Street Art Supply in San Rafael this week, and it was so much fun. I thought I would make a little video so you guys could see what we've been up to and do one yourself. So let's get ourselves started. Woohoo! Okay, so let's talk about a few things that you're going to need for class before we get started today. You'll definitely want to have a ruler to help you measure out what we're going to be using. I have a piece of paper here, the black piece of paper that's underneath. This is 5 by 11. That's what I measured it out to, so you'll need to cut that out. And that is just regular cardstock that I got from any art store. You could get it at Michael's or you could get it online. You don't want it to be heavy cardstock, maybe 60 pounds tops. Then the other thing that I have is I have a piece of Durlar, and I'm just going to show you which Durlar pad that I have here. So this is the Durlar, and it is the matte film. You want to make sure that you have the matte film, and I happen to have a really big pad of it, but you can get it a lot smaller. So this is made by a company called Graphics, and their stuff is great. I've used a lot of their things, and it's really nice quality stuff, and I really like it. So check it out. This is the matte film from Durlar. So what I did was I cut that down, and this is actually 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. And the reason for that is because I am using a die cut, and my die cut is 4 inches wide by 3 inches tall. So you want to make sure that you have a die cut. Now, if you don't have a die cutter, you could always do this with an x-Acto knife. This is not, one of those high maintenance things that that you'll need. But if you do have a die cut, I ran mine through my Circuit Cuddle Bug. I'm just going to pull it out here so you guys can see it. This is my Circuit Cuddle Bug, and it's a little machine that you can run your die cutter through, and you can pick these up. Michael's usually has coupons for these, and they're generally great to get on sale because they are a little bit pricey. I think they can run about $75, but you can also pick them up in Craigslist or at a garage sale. I've seen them several times at a garage sale. So those are some of the things that you will need. Lastly, you are going to need to have a micro perm pen, not a regular micron. This is something that is a little bit different, so don't confuse it. Micro perms can go on anything. They can go on ceramics, they can go on plastic, they can go on wood. They're really fabulous pens. I'm going to be working in an 03 today, but you could work in an 01 as well. The other thing that you're going to need for class is one of these really fantastic gel pens. I love this company. This is Gel Extreme, and I'm working with their gold pen. This will be for when we start to work on the black paper. Really great pen. If you don't have one of these, you could use the Uniball Gold, or you could use the Uniball Silver. You could also use your jelly rolls. If you have some metallic jelly rolls, those are great too. So that is what we've got for our materials. Let's get started. Okay, so for those of you who know me, you know that I like to do a little bit of meditation before we get started here. This just helps to settle your hands and get you in a really centered place so that when you start creating, you're not coming from a place of panic, but coming from a place of creativity and just relaxation. So go ahead and take a comfortable seated position, however that best works for you inside of your body today. Sitting back into your chair, letting both feet make connection to the floor, feeling your back resting against the chair here. And go ahead and allow your eyes to close. You can take your hands and let your hands rest over your heart here. And taking in a moment to notice the sounds around you. Softening in your forehead, and in your cheeks and your jaw. Taking a gentle swallow to relax your throat. Softening in your shoulders, your chest and your belly. Feeling your hips make connection to your chair. letting go through the legs, the thighs, the knees, the calves and the ankles, softening through the feet. And then once again, bringing your awareness back to your breath, feeling your breath as it flows in, and feeling the breath as it flows out. Noticing the breath in the rib cage as you expand on the inhale. Noticing the breath release on the exhale. And one more time, inhale and exhale. And we're going to practice a little bit of metta meditation here. So as you just stay with your breath, we're going to say an affirmation to ourselves here. And the affirmation goes like this: May I be happy, healthy, and peaceful. So as you inhale, saying to yourself, may I be happy, healthy, and peaceful. And as you exhale, feel the release in the body. Inhaling, may I be happy, healthy, and peaceful. And as you exhale, feel the release of the body. And one more time, saying to yourself, may I be happy, healthy, and peaceful. And as you exhale, feel the release. So we're going to change this affirmation just a little bit. I want you to think about somebody that you really love, somebody who brings you joy or happiness. Could be a friend, could be a parent, it could be a pet, could be a child. Whoever it is, we're going to change the affirmation here. So you're going to wish those affirmations for them. So thinking of that person that you love, and then saying in your mind, may you be happy, healthy, and peaceful. And then exhaling it out. Inhaling, may you be happy, healthy, and peaceful. And letting it go. And one more time. May you be happy, healthy, and peaceful. And letting it go. And just taking in a nice deep breath here. Letting it go with a sigh. Noting how the body is feeling right now. And when you feel ready, wiggling through the fingertips and wiggling through the toes. And adding vision back into your practice by gently blinking the eyes. I hope you enjoyed the meditation. Let's get ready to tangle. Okay, so what we've got here is I've unfolded the lantern that I made, the little illuminated heart card. And what I did was I took some measurements here, and you can see, and I'm going to raise this up so that you can see it closely. I've got a little bit of these little white dots that I put on the page. These are the measurements for folding. Now, the measurements are 3 3/4 each. So I've got this one, and then to here on the end. So it's 3 3/4 inch each spot here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this paper and I'm going to fold it until I can see my little dot here. And once I've folded it, I'm just very lightly going to give it a little crease, not a big crease because we're going to be working with this and we don't want it to be overly folded here. Once I've done that, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to go to the other side, and you'll be able to see that when I come back to fold it in, it's going to hit right along the crease line. But what I need to do is I need to make a little lip. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to make a teeny tiny little lip on the edge of the piece. I would say that this is about 1/4 of an inch, just like so. You can see there's my little lip there that I've made with my hand. Now I'm going to fold it in so that it's ready to go and I have my card. So there's my little white dot that I was looking for because I made my measurements. I knew that I needed a lip about 1/4 of an inch. So now that when I fold it over, it's ready to go. Okay? So go ahead, make your folds, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I've got my card here. At the top, you can see here's where my little lip is, right, on the cardstock. I've put in now my little die cut, and you can see that I'm using a little piece of Scotch tape to hold my die cut in place here. And I've got my heart centered on the inside so that when I fold this over, the heart will be turning face out. So the top of the heart is right where the crease is. Can everybody see that? Now I'm going to be using my cuddle bug here. So I've got my little tray for my cuddle bug. If you've never used one of these before, hopefully this will help you. I kind of had to figure this out on my own. I didn't know what I was doing with this thing. So I've got my little tray. I'm going to put it inside of the cuddle bug here. And then I have this little crank here, so I'm just going to go ahead and send it through. And then I'm going to pull it back out. Let's send it through one more time just for good measure. Okay, so there it is. We're going to pull that bad boy out. Once I have that, I'm going to pop this off and very gently pull off my tape. And you can see there's my heart. Pretty fantastic, so that when I fold it over, I know that it's going to fit right into the piece here. Does that make sense? All right, go ahead, make your heart however you've got it. If you've got die cuts, use your die cuts. If you don't, go ahead and grab an X-Acto knife. It's not that hard to cut a heart with an X-Acto knife, and you could even do it with a scissor once you get yourself started. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so here we are. We've got the heart. We've got our little negative heart here. And we're on the inside of the heart here. We're on the inside of the card. You can see that my paper is bending inward, yeah? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Durlar that I have, and I've got some Scotch tape here. It's pretty easy, and if you need tearaway tape, I have tearaway tape here that I did it with the first time, but I found that Scotch tape worked really well. So you can see that I'm putting this right over the heart here, and I'm just going to lay down that Scotch tape on both sides. Get that on there. And once I have that, I can go ahead and I can cut away the excess Scotch tape. And this is all set and ready now for me to work on the other side. So you can see that that heart is now in there. Something to be mindful of, don't throw away your negative heart. What I ended up doing was I took it and put it on the outside for my envelope, and I'll tangle around that a little bit later. So don't throw this away. This is still very usable. I like to use up all of my materials if I possibly can. So go ahead, tape in your Durlar with your Scotch tape, make any cuts that you need to get rid of the excess, and we're going to get started tangling. Okay, so let's get started here. I've got my micro perm pen here. This is the 03 that I'm working with. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get started with this one. So I'm just opening it up here, and I'm putting my hands on the piece just to lay the piece flat so that it doesn't move. And I'm just going to start by coming up from the bottom here, and I'm going to come up about 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to make a little dot just like so. So once I've got that dot, all I'm going to do is the tangle crescent moon, or just a half moon really. And I'm just going to come around and go right through that little dot and go right to the other side like so. You can see it's a little bit off, but I'm not worried about it. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do an aura right over the top of it, just like so. So I've got the beginning of my piece here, and we're going to start to work inside of this little area that we've created here. So we're creating our string, so to speak, right? So inside here, let's just start with a really easy one. We're going to start with flux. So I'm just going to come in from the bottom, and I'm going to make a teardrop shape that comes up to hit the top, back and down, and retouch at the center. So it's a nice teardrop that's going to take up a large percentage of the piece here. Next, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to jump right off the side, create the second flux, and then I'll jump off the other side and create the third flux. So really easy peasy here, nice way to start. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of detail. I'm going to come up and out, and I'm just going to make a little dot at the top, and I'm going to fill that in, and I'll do the same thing on this side. So coming in and filling it in, and one more right here, just for good luck. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look into this little band right here. If you need to pause me, this is a great place to pause me so that you can catch up. Okay, so let's build off of this just a little bit more here. We're going to start to come into this little band right here, and we're going to do a little bit of thatching. So all I'm doing are just some lines that are coming right next to each other. Nice and easy, relaxed lines to create the mandala effect that we've got going on here. I was really influenced by some beautiful Mehendi designs for this particular piece. And so that's where this is coming from. So just a couple of slats in here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the card on its side. This is just going to make it easier for me to draw this next part here. So you can see that I'm up near the top of my heart here, and you can notice this indentation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create two leaf-like shapes at the top of the heart. So I'm going to start from the indentation here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to build out and create a leaf-like shape here, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So once I've built out those two little leaf-like shapes here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the curvature of the top to create a line that goes down the middle. So all I'm doing is going ahead and creating a nice curvature line right down the middle there, and I'm going to do the same thing right over here. You can see that that has a little bit of a curve to it. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to very tightly aura that line. And Zentangle aura means you're just creating an outline, and because this one's nice and tight, that means it's very narrow. So that's all I'm doing. So we're just building another string here in which to work in. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and use flux one more time. That's the same tangle that we did over here. We're just going to do it up here. So you can see that I'm working sideways. If you're right-handed, you'll probably turn your piece like this to make it easy for your right hand. Make sense? So here I am. I'm on the side. Here's my two pieces up at the top here. And I'm just going to start to build that flux off of it. So I'm coming from this point right here at the bottom. I'm going to go up and over and drop right back in again and create a flux. I'm going to come from this point right here. I'm going to use this guiding line, come up and over, come back in and touch right back in again. Just making another flux. Coming up, traveling up the line, going ahead, coming back in, and making another flux. Right up here, jumping off, making my little teardrop shape. So you can see these are all just teardrop shapes here, yes? Now I'm going to do it on the other side. And as you know, sometimes doing mirroring can be difficult, so don't worry if you're off. All I'm going to do is just come up, and you can see I've already got that teardrop shape right there. Pretty easy. So I'm just going to come up and do it again. So I'm just going to travel up, create that teardrop shape, and come right back in again. traveling up the line. Notice where that one is coming off, and I'm going to do the same thing right here and create that teardrop shape. Same thing right here, coming up, travel, and create that teardrop shape. I think I get one more in there, so I'm going to just go ahead and put him in there. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and add some detailing. And if you need to pause me here just to create your leaves, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on rolling. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to make the same detailing that I did over here, except I'm going to do it just slightly different. I'm going to come up, make my line, but instead of making the ball at the end of the line, I'm just going to do a couple of drops. So I'll come up, make a couple of drops, go to the next one, couple of drops, next one, couple of drops. Going over to the opposite side, one more time, and here we go. Pretty fun. So I'm going to come down here now to this other leaf that we have. And you can see I'm just lightly pushing down on the piece just to make sure it's easy for my hand. And I'll go ahead and I'll create the flux again. So here comes the first flux. And you can see that I got a really nice teardrop shape without having to draw the lines. So you're just looking for that teardrop shape. So if you make it easy on yourself, you just look for that nice little curve. Coming up and over, back and in. There's my teardrop shape. Coming back up and over. Easy peasy. Gonna come over to the other side and do the same thing, just arcing out. There's my teardrop shape. Coming up and over, creating my teardrop shape. Coming up and over. There's my teardrop shape. One more time. Here's another teardrop. Going in and making the detail now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you know, it might be a little bit different than the last side, but nobody's perfect, so that's what makes art interesting. Here I go. And one more. So now I've got my 2 leaves here. Easy peasy. Okay, so here we are. We've got our flux at the top here and flux at the bottom. So we're going to start to build up a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here into the center of my piece. And I'm just going to make a little dot right on that top line there. And I'm going to go ahead and create another dot about, I would say, a 1/2 inch up, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and create now a little leaf-like shape right there. I'm going to go to my next one over here. Notice how I'm leaving a lot of space in between. We're only going to do 2 more of these on each side, so that's something to keep in mind when we're working here. So I'm going to go ahead and make about a 1/4 inch space between the 2, make a dot here and a dot here. I'm going to go ahead and make a leaf. And I have room for one more right here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here's my leaf. Right there. So see, now I'm going to do 2 more on this side. So 1 here and 1 here. Make my leaf. And then 1 here and 1 here. And make my leaf. Easy peasy. If you need to pause me here, this is a great place to do it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on rolling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue now. I'm going to come up about another 1/4 inch and I'm going to make a dot above each of these little leaves about a 1/4 inch. Once I have that, I'm going to come down on either side of the leaf here and I'm going to create a really nice aura. Now these guys on the side are going to rejoin. So watch, they're going to come and they're going to hit. See how they join together? This one's going to come down. This one's going to join it. This one's going to come down and hit the side of the heart there. I'm going to do the same thing right over here. So I'm just coming down And then this one will go ahead and join it. And I'm going to do it again. 1 and 2, right there. Easy peasy, easy peasy. All right, let's continue on. If you need to pause me, this is a great place to do it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on rolling. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build off of the top of these here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come to this area right here between these two. I'm going to come up about 1 inch and I'm going to make a dot. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a larger leaf that connects to the two of these pieces right here. I'm going to do the same thing in between these two. I'm going to come up about 1 inch. You can see where that one is. And I'm just going to make a dot. Then I'm going to go ahead and make my leaf-like shape right in between these two. I've got one more spot right here. I'm going to come up about 1 inch, make my leaf-like shape, connect to that dot, and connect. One over here, come up about 1 inch, connect to the top. That one's a little bit messy, but that's okay. And now for these pieces on the side, I'm just going to let them float off on either side. Easy peasy, easy peasy. This is a great place to pause. Let's go ahead and finish up these, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to continue on here. We're going to do an aura around the petals that we've just created here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to jump off the side here and just create an aura that bounces around the top of the petals here. Just bouncing in and out and in and out. One more time. And then off to the side it goes. So it's just a little aura right over the top of it. Easy peasy. Take your time, enjoy what you're doing, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to build off just a little bit more inside of the heart here. We're going to create a heart right underneath our little leaf here. So you can see that I'm right under the indentation, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create this little heart that's just going to jump right off of the bottom of it right here. Really sweet little heart for the inside there. We're going to work inside of our leaves here now, and most of you know that I love the tangle printemps, so we're going to put that in here. And one of the things that I want you to keep in mind with your printemps is you want to vary the size of it. So I'm just going to start right here in the indentation, and I'm going to put a fairly large printemps right here in the beginning. Once I've got that, now I can put some smaller ones in there. Varying the size of your printemps makes it just much more interesting to look at. So you can see I've got some smaller ones coming off the side here. Pretty neat. So I'll go in and I'll do that inside each one of my petals. You go ahead and do the same, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to build this up even more here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come inside of these little petals right here, and we're going to add that same detailing that we used for our flux in the beginning. So I'm just going to come into the center here, add a line, and then a little circle. So just a line and a circle, line and a circle, line and a circle. Pretty easy peasy, and it adds just a little bit of dimension to the piece here. If you need to pause me here to catch up, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on going. So I'm going to add a little bit of tipple to the piece here. For those of you who know me, you know it's my favorite. So I'm going to add just a couple of them into the piece here. So I'm just going to come over, and I like to vary the size of the tipple that I'm doing. So I'm going to start with a big tipple first, and then I'm going to have a medium-sized tipple, And then I'm going to have a really small little tipple. Now you don't want to go hog wild with these on this one because you're going to end up coloring them in. So I'm just going to randomly float them around the piece, just giving the piece a little bit of dimension, just to make it interesting to look at. So I've got one that's going to happen over here and over here. And then I'll come over to this side, I think, and add some over here. And I'll add a third one over there. I might just add one random tipple right over here. I just don't want to go crazy with it, just to keep it fun and interesting, but not over the top. So there's the interior of our heart. Now we're going to start to work around the perimeter here. So go ahead and grab your gold pen and we're going to get started. Okay, so you can see I've got my gold pen here. I'm going to come right into this corner and I'm going to come out about an inch and I'm going to make a dot. Once I've made my dot, I'm going to use that as my guide here. We're going to make just a little arc or a half moon here. So I'm just going to intersect that dot as I make my arc here. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do an aura on the outside of that arc. Once I have that aura on the outside of the arc, and you can see that my pen kind of skipped a little bit there, I'm going to build the same way that I did right in here. So it's the same exact thing. So I'm just going to come in towards the center. I'll make a dot at the top, and then I'll make a dot about halfway out. I'm going to do about 2 more on each side. So you can see that I'm just making my dots to line myself up so that I know where I'm going. And then I'll go ahead and I'll build my little leaves right here. You can see that I'm leaving space in between the leaves here. Really easy peasy. We've already done this before, so this should feel like we're just reminding ourselves how to do it, right? So I've got my little leaves on the outside. Now I'm going to come up just a touch further. And I'll go ahead and I will rejoin. So I'm going to go from the middle one first. I'm going to go ahead and come down and I'm going to hit the center. And I'll hit the center over here. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Same thing over here. 1 and 2. See how those are connecting? It's a little bit off, but that's okay. 1 and 2. So once I've got that, I'm going to start to work inside of this corner here. Same thing we did here, we're just going to carry it here. See that dot? That's my connection line. So I'm just going to come up, make my teardrop shape, and come right back down again and connect into this corner. Then I'm going to come off the side just like we did here. I'm going to go up and over and then jump right off the side of the page. Same thing over here, coming up and over and jumping right off the side of the page. So there's my flux in that corner. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up from the center, make that little ball, and go ahead and fill it in with gold. Same thing over here, coming up, make your ball, fill it in with gold. Last one right here, and fill it in with gold. Let's do the same thing on the opposite side. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to add one more set of detailing to this. You can see that I mimicked the same thing on the opposite side. Now we're going to go up into these little corners here and do just really small ones. So you can see that I'm up in this corner right here, right where my crease is. And I'm going to come out about maybe 3/4 of an inch and just make a dot. Now I'm going to do my half moon going from that crease in towards the center, just like so. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do my aura line. Finally, I'm going to come from that place of center, make a dot, and only about 1/4 of an inch now, I'm going to make those dots so that they're really, really close to the line. And I'll go ahead and I'll make really tiny little leaves here. Notice how there's space in between them. And then I'll go ahead and I'll aura in between them. So here I go, I'm going to aura. I could even start from right over here and come in aura. And I'll do the same thing right over here. The final piece on this side is that I'm just going to go ahead and add that flux. So here's the flux. Do the same thing right here and the same thing right here. Creating that detail on the inside where you make the line and the dot. Just like so. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to get started with color here, and I'm working with Prisma color pencils because I find that those work really well for me. They're my favorite for working on the Durlar. They just seem to take to it a lot better than the Polychromos or the Ergo Softs. Those are just a little too waxy or a little too oily for what we need them to do. So I'm just going to start in these really pretty little flux here, and I'm going to take this nice pink color. And I'm just going to start with these. Now, what I want to say about this is that working on Durlar is very different than working on regular paper. You don't have the ability to press hard with the Durlar because it'll just resist it. So I'm starting with this really nice pink, and I've got a darker red that I'm going to be using as my accent shading color. So I'll show you what I mean by this. So I'm going to hold on to the paper so that it doesn't move around. And I'm going to start with this really nice light pink. And hopefully this is going to show up on the video. So I've got this really pretty nice light pink that I'm starting to fill in, and I'm not using a whole lot of pressure for it. I'm just getting it in there and having it be nice and light, as I don't want to get wax resist going on with the Durlar. So once I've got that pink in all of the flux here, I'm going to come in with my red and very, very lightly go over the top of the pink. And you can see that it really picks up quite nicely. And remember, you don't have to push hard with a darker color to get it to show up. So here I am, I'm just adding a little bit of that darker color. And then I'm going to come back to that original pink, and I'm just going to hit it on the ends of that red just to get a really nice blend going through here to soften up the edge. Now I'll come back with that red right at the tip here, and I'm just going to add just a baby amount more of pressure here. That way I'm not going to get too much resist, and I'm going to get a really interesting pop of color right at the bottom of the flux. You can see how interesting that is. So same thing over here, going to start to climb up the sides of that flux very, very lightly with that color. You can see that my pencil is nice and sharp. I'm coming in, adding some of that in there. And then right at the bottom, adding a little bit more intensity. Now I'm coming back in with that pink and adding just a little bit just to blur the edges off a little bit more. Really pretty color, nice combination there. I love seeing the red inside of the flux. So this is something that's a little bit different. Every time I do one of these pieces, I try to change my colors so that it's a different experience every time. You know, I talk a lot about you guys coming back and trying something new and then redoing it over again and trying it with different colors because it's never the same way twice. Okay, so there you have it. There's flux. Go ahead and do yours, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to continue to build here, and I'm going to take that same color that I did down here, and I'm going to carry it to the insides of these little petals. So I've got the pink. I'm going to start to lay down the pink inside of the petals here, and you can see that I'm going to each one and adding just a little bit into each one. And then I'll come back in with some of that red at the bottom and have it come about halfway up on each one. And see that I'm just letting that go right through. I'm not being overly cautious about it. I'm just getting that color to lay down and do its thing. And then finally, I'll come into the tip of each one and add just a little bit more pressure right at the bottom. That way we won't get too much resist from the paper. Yep. And then finally, I'll come back in with some of that pink right up at the top and just blend that red in so I don't get a strong line of demarcation through the whole thing. We're going to add this color one more time, and that color is going to come right in here to our little zigzag line, our little aura line. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with that little pink pencil and let it go around each of my petals here. And remember, you can pause me anytime you want if I'm going too quickly for you. So I've got this now all the way through here. And then I'll come back in with my red pen or my red pencil, and just in the indentations, I'm going to add a little bit of that red, just to keep it interesting here. Now, once I've done that on those indentations here, I'm going to add a little bit of a stronger red right at the bottom of each little indentation, and then I'll grab my pink pencil and I'll come right back in on the edge and soften the edges up. You can see that that really does blur out the edges and make it so that there isn't a strong line of demarcation. You get a really pretty blend of color. So go in, finish your indentations, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so you can see that I've had a chance to go all the way through there. Now I'm just going to get this little heart. So I'm coming in with that same pink color, just filling in the heart here nice and lightly. I'm not being overly careful with it, just getting some color in there. And then I'll come in with that darker color, that darker red, and just lightly come about halfway up the heart here. And remember, you can do any color you want. I change my colors all the time, so don't even worry about what I'm doing. But if you are not comfortable with color, you can always follow along with me. You can see that I added a little bit of darkness right at the tip of the heart. And now I'm going to grab that pink again and just soften up at the top of the heart here to get just a little bit more blend out of it. And I'm really liking where that's going. So if you need to pause me here, this is a great place to do it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on rolling. So I'm going to grab a new color, and I've got this really pretty violet, kind of maybe a lavender violet, and then I've got a dark violet to go with it. Remember, I'm using a light and a dark together because I want to get that light shading with the dark shading. So I'm going to come in with that lighter color first. So I've got this really pretty violet color that I'm going to bring into the piece here. And I'm bringing it all around that petal. And so once I've got that in there, I'm going to go ahead and at the bottom add a little bit of that darkness just to give a little bit of illusion of shading. So here we are. Here's the darker violet. I'm going to come in with that darker violet, and you can see there's a little something on the edge of it, so I'm just going to clean it up. Now I'm coming about halfway up that petal, adding a little bit to it. Oof, look at that violet next to that red. Woohoo! You know I love color. So that is really, really pretty. Then we're going to come back in with that lavender and just soften up the edges here, just to give it a little bit more of a blend. And that really came out pretty. So I'm going to go through and do that again. So here I am. I'm just going to very lightly go ahead through the petal, add a little bit of that really pretty lavender. Once I've got that lavender in there, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more of that darker violet-y blue color that's at the bottom. Once I've got that darker violet-y blue color, I'm going to go ahead and come back in with the lavender and soften it up. Now you can see that just by going into it a little bit, it really kind of makes it nice and creamy and soft, almost like an ombre kind of feel to it. Really pretty, and it takes out any of that extra light that might be at the bottom. So go ahead, do these guys, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to carry on here, and I'm going to start to look for another contrast color. So I had that really pretty red. Now I had the purple. I've got this really pretty orange that I'm going to work with in here. And I want to get a really nice kind of sunburst kind of feeling with this. So I'm going to grab a really nice light yellow to go with that orange here. So I'm going to come into where my printemps is, and I'm going to start with the lighter color first. So I'm laying down that really pretty yellow color first, right over the top of the printemps. And once I get it into all the petals here, I'll start to take some of that orange and develop a little bit more of a contrast between the two. So here I've got these three going, so I'll just demonstrate right here. So here's the orange. I'm going to come in with the orange and start to build right on top of that yellow. I'm going to come up about halfway through the yellow with that orange. And it starts to give me a really pretty kind of sunburst kind of feel, which is what I was going for. So I'm going to go into each one of those and come up about halfway with that orange. And you can see that it's really, really rich. And then once I've had a chance to go through with that orange, I'll come back with the yellow and just blur out the edges of where the orange meets the yellow, just so that I don't get a line of demarcation here. So I'm just kind of cleaning it up, noticing any places where I still might be getting a little bit of that white poking through. Really make sure that I'm saturating those areas. I can come back in with that orange just at the bottom, add a little bit more pressure just to make it interesting. Careful not to push too hard. The wax will push back on you if it doesn't like what you're doing there. So you can see how pretty that's becoming here with that red, the purple, and then the orange right there. So go ahead, finish your three, and I'll see you in a minute. Remember, relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, and have some fun. I'll see you soon. Okay, so now we're going to work with the background color in here a little bit. I'm going to take that same yellow and I'm going to carry it to the background color. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to come in and start to work with that yellow, bring it in all the way around the tipple that I have in here, and you can see that I'm laying down that color pretty nice and soft. My pencil's working in a circular like motion to really help me lay down a really nice soft misty color. So it's really nice and soft, nothing too heavy, no lines or anything like that. We really just want it to be a very soft color. Once you've gotten all of that color into the heart here, and you can see that I just need to push down a little bit to stay within my heart on the sides. Once I've got that yellow down, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab that orange and start to create a really pretty shadow line that goes all the way around the little lotus mandala that we just created. So here is my orange. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very softly come up and create the illusion of a shadow. All the way in through here. Just dancing around. Adding some of that orange. It almost gives the illusion of like a little flame in here. So I'm just going all the way around. And then what I'll do once I've got that orange in there is I'll come back in with the yellow and just start to blend those out so that I don't get a strong line of demarcation. It almost looks like I'm working with oil pastels. It gives that really pretty illusion of a blended color really nice and creamy and soft, right? So you can see that I'm just working it all the way into the piece. I'm going right over that orange with that same earlier color just to give it the softness that I'm looking for. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and start to work inside of the leaves here. So we're going to pick a color for our flux leaves in here. I'm going to be using a green. Pick the color that you want to see, and I'll see you in a minute. All right, so I'm going to start to work inside of the leaves here. I've got this really pretty color combination of a really pretty minty green with a pretty forest green. So I'm just going to start by coming into the leaves here with this really pretty kind of minty green. And you can see that I'm not being overly cautious with it. In fact, you can see I'm pretty far back on my pencil when I'm adding this color in. I'm just very lightly starting to shade in that color. And it almost has like a grayish green kind of feel to it. I really like it. It's kind of different for me. This is not a color that I choose very often. I have to, you know, kind of get myself to try new colors all the time because I find that I go for the same ones over and over again. So this is kind of a nice welcomed change. So you can see that I've got all the green in there. Now I'm going to take my forest green and I'm just going to go in towards the center of the line here and come out about halfway into the leaf. And you can see that I'm working in that nice circular-like motion, and it's just coming up from the bottom and then into the middle of the leaf itself. This is just bringing in a really nice shading to the piece here. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to blur the line out with a little bit of that earlier green that I started with and soften it up. Same thing right here, just softening that line. Same thing right here, softening that line. And then I can go back into the center and add just a touch of intensity right in towards that middle line there. So you can see I'm just getting a little bit more intense, not a lot, just a little bit. Just to sprinkle more of color. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side here, so I'm just coming up halfway, adding some of that green, coming up halfway. Remember, this is really light tension that I'm using here. I'm not using a heavy tension because I don't have to. That green is going to come in and do its job all by itself. I don't have to push. I'm going to go in and grab that light green and start to blend it in. Doing a little blending over here. And a little bit of blending over here. Isn't that so pretty? So we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'll see you soon. Okay, so you can see I've had a chance to do the green. I'm going to go ahead and pick up my purple one more time. The colors that I used right in here, and I'm going to use that as a contrast next to the green here. So I'm going to come in and just add some of that lavender right next to the purple. And you can see that I'm just filling in right into those little triangles that I have here. I'll do the same thing up here. So you can see that I'm pressing down just a little bit on that heart just to get it to stay put so that I can see where I need to add my color. Once I've added my color, I'm going to go back in with that darker color that I have here. And I'll blow this up so that you can see it nice and strong here. And I'm just going to add a little bit of intensity right inside of the tips of the triangle just to get a little bit of interest inside of those pieces here. Same thing on this side, just a little bit. I'll take that purple and I'll blend it out just so that I don't get a strong line of demarcation there. So it has much more of a blended feel to it. And you can see how it really just makes those leaves pop, doesn't it? Really nice. So go ahead, do this side, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to add one more place where I'm going to use that purple. So I'm going to take this purple and I'm just going to bring it right into these little triangles right here. So I've got this right in here, and right in here. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that purple in there. This piece is really coming along. I'm enjoying the colors so much. So now I've got that darker color. I'm just going to add a stitch of it right into the little indentations there. And then I'll grab that lavender and just blur it out a little bit and make that really interesting. So if you need to pause me here, you're welcome to do so. We're going to start to work now inside of the black paper. The first thing that I want to talk about is we're going to use a white pencil from Prisma color. You do not want to use a charcoal pencil. You want to use a white color pencil. And what we're going to do is we're basically priming. So I'm coming in here and I'm just going to make this nice and big. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to lay down a ghostly white all over the metallic that I laid down. Now I know what you're thinking, oh, it's going to make the metallic go away. I promise you it's not going to. As soon as you add color, that metallic will show right back up again. So really nice and ghostly right in here. And then I'm going to do the same thing inside of the petals. Now you'll notice that I am not doing it right here in the bar. I'm just doing it inside of the petals. So here I go. I've got it into the petals here, getting all ghostly inside of the petals. So go ahead, do all of your petals, do all 4 of them, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so let's have some fun here. You can see that I've done all 4 of my little mandalas and they're all ghostly now. I'm going to take that same color that I did with the flux in the beginning and use it in this piece right in here. So just check this out. I'm going to make this nice and big for you so you can really see what I'm up to. So I'm starting with my pink first, and I'm going in and I'm just laying down that pink. And you can see that there isn't a whole lot of contrast for that pink, just because it's not much different than the white that I have. But I'm putting it inside each of the fluxes here and getting that nice and smoky or misty, however you want to put it. Now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to grab that red. And once I start to add that red, notice what happens. It starts to bring the flux back to life again. So I'm coming back in and notice how it's also starting to bring back that metallic that I have in there. So I'm coming about 3/4 of the way up. And then I'll come back down towards the bottom, add a little bit of intensity towards the bottom, because on regular paper, you have the ability to do that, whereas with the Durlar, you don't. So I'm going to come back in with that pink now, and I'm going to start to blur up those lines of where the red meets the pink. So I'll go through and I'll add that into each one in here, just getting that nice, strong pink color in there, coming in with the red and really getting it to pop back into being. Getting that red all in there. And then I'll go ahead and I'll add a little bit of intensity down towards the bottom. Same thing over here, adding some of that red back in. Getting some of that intensity in towards the bottom. Now, once I've had a chance to do that, I'm going to grab some of that purple, that same purple that I used over here. I'm going to come into where the triangles are in here and start to add some of that purple into those triangles. And you'll start to see that that's going to make those flux pop a little bit more. I'm grabbing my darker purple and starting to bring it into these areas right here. And then I'll come in and I'll blur out the lines a little bit just to give it a nice blended feel. Now, if you're unhappy with the way that your metallics are holding up there, you can always grab your metallic pen and come right in over the top of that color and just clean it up a little bit. So you can see that I'm just cleaning up my lines, getting those right back in there, making them work. Same thing up in here. I can re-go over these lines in here. These Gel Extreme pens are wonderful for working with color pencil because they just go right over them, no problem. So you can see that I've done that. Go ahead and do all 4 of yours and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so now you can see that I've had a chance to go all the way around and fill into each corner. Now I'm going to do the petals here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that pink that I was working with here and I'm going to start to bring it into the central petal here. And you can see that I'm just starting to fill it in. Once I've got that all filled in, I'm going to go ahead and grab now that darker red that I had and just bring it into the bottom of the piece here. And you can see that just by bringing a little bit of that red into the bottom, it gives it a really nice shading technique that just makes those petals pop right off the page. I love how that looks. And if you want to go in, you can go in and blend into those as well and get those all nice and filled in. Now the next part that I'm going to do around those is I'm going to take that very same purple and I'm going to bring it all the way around them. So I've got that nice lavender that I'm going to start with here, and I'll start to bring that around the petal here. And I'll bring it around each one. Once I've had a chance to bring it around each one, you know, as I'm looking at this, it really does look like cloisonne to me, which is really pretty. I do love how that looks. So I'm bringing in that purple, and then I'm grabbing the darker purple, and I'm just going to go halfway up each petal and add some of that shading of the darker purple in to each petal, and really look at that. Look at how rich and gorgeous that looks. I just love working with the gold and the color together. So I'm coming back in with the original lavender, and I'm just going to blend in to that darker purple a little bit, just to make it soften. No heavy lines of demarcation there. Isn't that pretty? Go ahead, do your petals, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so this has really come along. I'm going to take that same purple that I worked with for my petals, and I'm going to start to bring them into my tipple that are inside of my piece here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit of softness with that lavender that I have here, and you can see that I'm just going into one side of the tipple and just adding some of that lavender to it, very, very softly, not pressing hard, just coming back in and adding some of that in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab that darker purple and start to add some shading just to the outside edge to give this some interest. So you can see how that really starts to make those tipple kind of jump off the page a little bit, which I really love. Now, in some of my previous incarnations of the Illuminated Heart, I gumballed out the tipple and did different colors, but for this one, I'm really feeling the purple. I really like how it's just coming right off of that yellow. It's quite lovely. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab one last color for the inside of the heart here, and I'm going to go right into this bar right here. I'm going to add some of this yellow that I used in the background and put it into the bar so that it really pops off next to that purple. So I've got that in there, and then I'll grab my orange, and just on the sides here I'm going to add a little bit to the sides of the bar just to get it to have a little bit more of a little sheen in the middle. You can see that I've left the middle light and the sides are kind of that darker orange color, which is so nice. So if you need to pause me here, this is a great place to do it. Otherwise, we're going to do one final part to the piece and then we are going to put this bad boy together. Woo woo! So exciting. So in my piece here, I have just a little bit of a border around my heart. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right at the bottom and I'm just going to put a little gold dot right in here. I've grabbed my metallic pen and I'm going to put a little gold dot there. And then I'm going to evenly try to space my dots the best that I can around my heart. See here, he's getting a little cranky, that little pen of mine. There he goes, coming back to life there. So you can see I'm just working my way around the heart. I'm just going around, adding dots. Dots are good. Dots are your friend. I do enjoy a good dot. We're just going around, adding it to the piece. And even if, you know, you didn't have the Durlar and you just wanted to make this as a card, it would be a very pretty card all by itself. So there it is. So we've got the dots all in, which looks really nice. And, you know, any places where you might want to clean up your metallic lines, you can always go back in and clean up your lines and just make sure that it feels finished and refined to you. So go ahead, do your dots, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so you can see that I've had a chance to clean up a little bit with my metallic pen and just get this nice and crisp. I love the way that that turned out. We're going to start to put the piece together. So I'm just going to fade out here a little bit, and I'm going to grab the card and I'm opening it up so that now I've got the bottom edge in my hand. I'm just going to fold it just a little bit with my hand here. And you can see here's the lip right here in my hand. I'm going to take that top piece and let it set into the lip. Now watch what happens. So here I am. It's now in a tent-like position here. I'm just going to go ahead and put my little illuminated light in there. Remember, you don't want to use a real candle. You'll burn down your house and that's no good. So there you have it. We've got our illuminated heart, which I'm so excited about. I hope you'll be sharing these and making them for friends. They're just so much fun. I will have some of these pre-made in the Tangled Yogi store. So if you are interested, you can go to tangledyogi.com and click on the Tangled Yogi shop. And I will have some of these pre-made if you don't have a cuddle bug or you just don't want to mess around with the Durlar and an x-Acto knife. It will be a limited amount, so first come, first serve on those. I'm sorry to say. There's only one of me and lots of you. So I'll be hand making those and putting them in the store so that you'll have a chance to purchase them and get them before, hopefully before Valentine's Day. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed making it for you. If you did like it, please give us a thumbs up on the YouTube page or leave us a nice review. And if you want to share your work with us, you can go to Facebook to the Tangled Yogi Art Community page and share your artwork with us. We'd love to see it. And if you want to learn more about Tangled Yogi, you can go to tangledyogi.com and find out about all of our upcoming classes. I really enjoyed working with you today. I hope you had a good time. Once again, this is Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi, signing off. Bye for now.